Hey everybody, John from IPT. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We got a Subaru. It's a '08 4EAT out of a Forester, I believe. Um, Customer sent us a limited slip. It's a torsion biasing style. I'm not sure who makes it, but I'm going to put a link down in the description. So what we're going to have to do is take out all the factory stuff and do what would be a traditional setup of a ring and pinion. We're probably going to assume the pinion depth is correct, but the side to side obviously needs to be set. And that's done via these adjusters. It's kind of like a 9-inch Ford rear. They screw in, and as you screw them, it moves the differential one way or another, and it also establishes the correct pinion bearing, carrier bearing preload. This is a special Subaru tool to get the adjuster off. And these things can be kind of a hump. Sometimes they're seized in here and there's no way you're even moving them. We tried these. I got them loose already, so this one's not going to be a problem, but that's something that you could run into with these things. And also they like to crack in this area. All right, sometimes when you have some hard use, they tend to break there. So it's there's no way to really get around it or make it stronger, but the limited slip does help, because I believe it's usually a result of you know, when you spin the tires and you get wheel hop and things like that, it oftentimes causes that breakage. So let's get into this. So what I like to do is we mark them, then we count how many turns. And obviously, that's not a substitute for setting it up correctly, but it kind of gets you in the neighborhood. All right, so here's our mark, and we're going to go ahead and count how many turns it is. One, two, three, four, five. They usually end up being seven-ish. Six. Oh, we're at six. All right, a note on this tool. I'm going to put the part number in the description because it's not legible, but it comes with a rod going through it. And you're playing with yourself if you do that. So we had a 1/2-inch square drive machined into it, you know, so we could put it on a big ratchet. Now, go to the other side. And this thing kind of has a chip in it, which is, that's not uncommon. And it's not a problem. It has nothing to do with durability, or it's not structural. And also, when you take these things apart, you want to use a lot of PB blaster and get some oil down in there. You know, because you're screwing aluminum into aluminum, and it kind of gets a little messed up. This one's kind of getting a little tight on me. And now we take the whole differential out. All right, so we're going to have to change this ring gear over to the new unit and you're going to either have to reuse your bearings or replace the bearings because the replacement doesn't come with them. This, you know, our case. I'm going to clean this all up and then we'll get back. So we got these bearings on. We put the ring gear onto the diff. And we got our left and our right cups. We put a little lube here. Put a lube on the bearing surfaces. And again, this kind of sometimes these cups are impossible to get out. So there are times when you might not even be able to do this. You might have to get a new differential to start off with. So that remains to be seen on some of them. This we got lucky. So again, you screw aluminum into aluminum, and oftentimes it's over the years it's just never going to come off again. You got to kind of sneak this in one side at a time. I'm just going to get these started. And we're going to just do this the old-fashioned way, in the sense of we're going to paint the gears up and pattern them that way. So we're going to go back to this 6 turns. And sometimes it won't let you do them by hand after a certain point. And if you guys ever have to take these out to change the seals, I recommend just doing one side at a time. That way it's kind of easy to get the adjusters back to where they belong. Okay, so this is a little bit loose. So what we do is you have to establish some preload on the carrier bearings. So this is kind of a feel thing, and it's called spin tight. So you're going to spin it, and you're going to see it's going to be tight enough on the preload to just stop it at a certain point. You see, it just doesn't keep going. So this is what is considered nice carrier bearing preload. And if you have newer bearings, you use a little bit more preload than old bearings, because they're going to loosen up a tad once you put them together. So now at this point, we have our pinion in, And I guess there's different ways to do this, but common sense tells me, or this is the way I've always done it, that I'm going to put this in here and pattern it this way. All right, we're going to have to paint the teeth up, etc. But this is how we're going to establish a pattern on the gears. And also at the same time, you got to get in here and put some load on this diff to create some resistance, or it's not going to show you a proper pattern. So let me paint this up and we'll see what it looks like again. All right, we get a little mustard on here, and you want to paint the gears going from in to out, and you don't have to do the whole thing. And again, we're obviously we're going to check, but we assume the pinion depth is going to be correct. It's just a side to side pinion depth. By the way, there's shims that go under this piece, right? So your pinion depth gets changed by changing those shims. They're pretty consistent though. From the factory level, they usually all have about the same shim in it, which tells me they're made pretty accurately. And even if you change parts, you don't have to mess with them. But speaking of changing parts, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to affect this. So if you change the pump, that could potentially affect it. The bell housing. Changing the differential, we got to assume that it's all made to a center line. And this is why I'm saying we shouldn't have to mess with the pinion depth. That would kind of be crazy if that changed. But we have to check the side to side. And hopefully we'll be able to see when we get in here. So once I get the stuff painted up, put this all in. And that what we do is a nut and bolt this thing down. And again, there's other ways to do it, but this has always jumped out at me as the way that makes the most sense. And this is stuff you don't normally have to mess with in the course of a rebuild, especially like if you want to change the seals on these adjusters. If you do one at a time and mark it and get your turns counted and your final bearing preload feels good, it's going to be right. So what we have to do is we have to put a little tension on this. So I get snap ring pliers and we let it drag a little bit. If my cameraman has an extra hand to stick in here. So all we're doing is putting a little bit of load on it. And now we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so as you can see, I hope you can see. Pattern looks good, and on the other side, it looks good. Okay, and on a pinion, we could kind of see it's kind of right in the middle, which, you know, to be expected. We expected the depth to be good. So this is this should work fine. We got lucky in one shot. We don't have to really mess with this too much. Sometimes there's a lot of messing around when you do this, but again, we got lucky, and this pattern kind of looks like right where it was when we took it apart. You know, you could kind of see the original marks, and that's right where it was. So this should have a nice quiet operation within reason, and we're done with this aspect of it. So now we put the transmission together. This goes in as the pump, and we put the bell housing on last. Maybe I'll do a quick shot of that. But again, the purpose of this video was pretty much to show you guys how to set up the gears. Okay, something important to note on these axle seals, they're directional. So if you look way inside on the lip, you can have serrations that go left to right or right to left. So they have to be put in according to what you took out. You know, your axles, usually when you're going forward, they're turning in one direction. So if you put these things in wrong, unlike a lot of seals, you know, which have the serrations in both directions, if you put these in wrong, you're going to burn the seal up pretty quickly. So always be aware of that, and always look at what you're taking out and make sure these little serrations are facing the same way. So you want to find something that fits over there so you could tap these in straight and flush. I'm going to only show you one side because the other side's the same. But this is another important thing to worry about. These little locks for the adjusters have to be in place. Because if they loosen up, you're going to have a whole world of crap. You know, this thing will just unscrew, and it'll destroy the differential and probably break the case. So these things get siliconed on. So I'm going to make sure you put a decent bead on it. And then there's just a couple other things to be aware of. This hole here is your front seal drain back. I've gone into that in other videos, but that kind of takes fluid from here all the way to here. And then in your transmission case, there's a corresponding rubber seal here. Okay, and that takes the fluid from there and dumps it into your transmission pan. So that's whatever builds up behind your front seal has to go somewhere. So if you don't put that seal, it's going to start leaking gear oil into the transmission, or vice versa, which is not what you want. Also, we want to put some grease on this little sleeve, which is going to plug into the differential. So as you see, there's a nice bead of silicone around this whole thing, and now we're going to bolt it on. So this whole differential, I'll put a link in the description, is from a company called SubaruGears.com. So they make a few different items for Subarus, and one of my customers told me that they're coming out with a billet flex plate, which would be nice because you do see these things break flex plates from time to time. So a lot of these brackets, or this bracket anyway, gets bolted between the bell housing and the case. But this is just more or less at this point a matter of bolting everything together and letting it dry. All right, so this is what our finished product looks like, and very important to note is the front differential needs to get filled with 75 W90 synthetic gear oil. I really don't care what brand it is, you know, anything reputable. People have been known to leave these empty, and it's kind of problematic. So the automatic transmission section is going to take about 10 quarts of ATF. I recommend Dextron 6, and again, 75 W90 synthetic in the differential.